You know, we the people shouldn't have to beg a presidential candidate to make appearances so we can know exactly what they're thinking. I mean, if a presidential candidate is running, seeking our votes, it's not enough to have the right to vote. You need to have the right to vote with knowledge. Now, the truth is, we know what Kamala Harris is. She's a Marxist Islamist. Her economic policies have been the most extreme, even more extreme than Bernie Sanders. That's not moderate. That's not little d Democrat. That's not even socialism. It is what it is. And now she will lie about them to the extent that her polling and surveys tell her she needs to lie about them. So you have an issue with Marxist Islamism plus character. She has a very low character. What do I mean by that? She knows she will say anything and do anything to get elected. And in this Marxist Islamism and low character, it is a defective trait that she shares with her media, with George Stephanopoulos, with Dana Bash. It's a defective trait she shares with all of MSNBC and CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the rest of the big government, Pravda, Al Jazeera, American media platforms. Deceit, lies, it's a pathology. The ends justify the means, as many communists have said, including Lenin. And that's exactly what's taking place. So we had people who say, when will she come out? When will she speak? But it's more than when will she come out? When will she speak? Which is very important. But when she does, do we believe her? That's the issue with flip-flopping. Flip-flopping means you're a liar. You either lied before or you're lying now. She hasn't had a change of worldview. She hasn't suddenly come upon facts or information or knowledge she didn't have before. She's a chameleon. She has a core belief system, but she's a chameleon in the sense that she will reveal them when she feels it's useful. She will conceal them when she feels it's useful. She will pretend she doesn't hold them anymore, or to the extent she held them, when she thinks it's useful, to her gaining power. This is what autocrats do. And so I'm going to spend time right up to the moment of Election Day. For all of our affiliates, all of you listeners, wherever you may be, exposing this woman. And by the way, well, the fact that she's a woman and the fact that she's a minority, black, is very, very important to the Democrat Party and the media. It means nothing to Xi. It means nothing to Putin. It means nothing to Un. It means nothing to the Islamo-Nazis. It means nothing to the illegal aliens, the criminals on our streets. They could care less if she's a she or a he, if she's albino or black. It doesn't matter. It's the policies. And that's what should matter to you. Is she going to improve your life? Or is she going to make it miserable? Is she going to make our streets safer or more dangerous? Is she going to secure our border from fentanyl, from rapists, from illegal aliens, from murders? Or is she going to continue the Harris-Biden policies of today? I want to address several issues, but I want to start with one in particular. I said yesterday and before that the Harris-Walz ticket is the most anti-Semitic national ticket in American history. You know, it's a funny thing. Woodrow Wilson, you might think, who was one of the most horrible racists one of the most horrible racists, a Democrat, a so-called progressive. He resegregated the civil service. He resegregated the military. So many things that he did I wrote about in The Democrat Party Hates America. But he was not anti-Jewish. He put the first Jew on the Supreme Court. Interesting, isn't it? Strange, but interesting. Franklin Roosevelt didn't lift a finger for blacks and was anti-Jewish. What he did to blacks, not only wouldn't he meet with them for the most part, as I've told you before, in 1940, a bipartisan bill came to him from Congress to outlaw lynching, a federal law outlawing lynching, and he wouldn't sign it. And he was condemned by a number of prominent black athletes, as a matter of fact. But you wouldn't know it listening about FDR today. You wouldn't know about listening to LBJ about him today, that he was every bit as racist as Woodrow Wilson. Horrendous. So it is amazing when you hear that party talk about Donald Trump, who doesn't have a racist bone in his body, who's never done anything racist. All those years as an employer, as a developer, in entertainment, all those years. Kamala Harris, in my view, is an anti-Semite, and I'm going to demonstrate it. Tim Walz, in my view, is an anti-Semite. I don't care that she's married to a Jew. That is irrelevant. There are anti-Semites. There are Jew haters who are Jews, just like there are Catholic haters who are Catholic, and on and on. They exist. It's a sickness, but they exist in every ethnicity and in every religion. The fact that you marry somebody who is this or that is of no consequence. It's you, your character, your substance, what's between your ears that matters. With a piece here in the Daily Mail, excuse me, that was a huge mistake, the Daily Wire. Most radical anti-Semitic ticket. Elise Stefanik slams Tim Walz for appearing with anti-Israel leader. Walz rubbed shoulders with Students for Justice in Palestine founder Hatim Bazian in 2019. By Cassie Akiva. Stefanik condemned Walz for rubbing shoulders with the founder of the National Students for Justice in Palestine, is another Hamas front group. During a 2019 event, Walz was photographed with the anti-Semite scholar and JSP founder Hatim Bazian during the Council on American Islamic Relations March 2019 event on challenging Islamophobia at Metropolitan State University in St. Paul, the Washington Free Beacon reported. So CARE is a Hamas front group founded by Hamas that supported October 7th. It is a group with extremely close ties to Kamala Harris. Now let's just stop there. If we had a Republican candidate for president or vice president who had extremely close ties to the Ku Klux Klan, wouldn't that be the end of it? Wouldn't that be the end of it? This is why I say the media in America are filled with Hamas, Muslim Brotherhood supporting individuals, self-haters, anti-Americans, anti-Israel. It's who they are. And I will remind you that the New York Times was owned by a Jewish family, as it was covering up the Holocaust because Franklin Roosevelt wanted to cover it up. Tim Walz condones and props up anti-Semites like the most dangerous professor in America, Hatem Bazian, Stefanik told the Daily Wire. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, that's the most radical anti-Semitic ticket in history. She's 100% correct. Walz reportedly opened the CARE event and used his remarks to announce the formulation of an office to address Islamophobia in Minnesota. Bozian is also founder of the Anti-Israel American Muslims for Palestine, which is under investigation in Virginia for suspicions it finances terrorist activity, according to the Free Beacon. So these are the most vile, radical organizations with ties to these terrorist front groups that have connections to, involvement with, the Democrat candidates for president and vice president of the United States. The troubling anti-Semitic histories of CARE and SJP have been well documented, especially since Hamas's October 7 massacre of Israelis. CARE Executive Director Niwad Awad celebrated Hamas's attack, stating he was happy to see people breaking the siege and that Israel does not have the right to self-defense. Students for Justice in Palestine, we've talked about these groups, has been the driving force behind the anti-Israel encampments, the Hitler Youth Movement, on college campuses, which have led to the harassment of Jewish students and the disruption of some college graduations, and they'll be back. They're going to be back in force. Both AMP and SJP were named in a May lawsuit filed in federal court, which accuses the groups of working to support Hamas, a U.S. designated terror organization, by acting as collaborators and propagandists, much like our media. Now, I want you to think about this. I want you to step back and think about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. The truth is, most Americans know very little about both of them. And the media want it that way. And Kamala Harris wants it that way. But over my dead body. Walz came under fire last week after it was revealed that he hosted extremist Islamist imam. There's another one. Assad Kaman. Multiple times. Zaman met with Walz's gubernatorial office as recently as May 2023. Zaman, who is the executive director of the Muslim American Society of Minnesota, has a history of sharing his Facebook page to share Hamas press releases, anti-Semitic blogs, and a link to a piece on a website for a 2013 pro-Adolf Hitler film, the Washington Examiner just reported. A pro-Adolf Hitler film, CARE, Hamas, Students for Justice in Palestine. Who did the vetting of this man? Eric Holder. They knew all this. This is all publicly available. And Kamala Harris knew all this. She is close to many of the same organizations and has been